Welcome back to this video series about reprogramming the subconscious mind. Today, we're going to look at the science behind reprogramming the subconscious mind and how we can actually rewire the brain just like we would a computer. So let's dive in. Okay, the science of reprogramming the subconscious mind. So here's what we'll be looking at today. What is neuroplasticity? And going into the brainwave states that affect the subconscious mind and our ability to reprogram it. First of all, what is neuroplasticity? Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neuronal connections through life. Simply put, the brain's ability to change, adapt, and grow throughout your life. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to adapt to new experiences, learning, new environments, and even recover from brain damage. So here's what neuroplasticity looks like. Here's what your neurons look like. So the neurons have these two parts, the axon, which is the long, skinny, branch-like part, and then the dendrite, which is this multi-branching end, which creates connections with other neurons. When two neurons connect together, it's called a synapse. So you see that here, the neuronal junction where electrical signals and chemical neurotransmitters are relayed between neurons or muscles. So what does that mean for us? Well, what neuroplasticity is it can be broken down into two different categories. Structural plasticity, meaning that the brain can actually change its physical nature. So new synapses can form when learning happens. So that's those two neurons connecting together, creating a synapse. And so when learning happens, more neurons connect together, creating a new neural pathway. Dendritic growth, so the end part, that branchy part at the end, the dendrites can increase and grow so that they can make more connections. Functional plasticity refers to the brain's ability to basically divert certain functions to other parts of the brain that are not damaged. So that's pretty cool because after the brain suffers an injury like a stroke, certain parts of the brain can take over the functioning of those otherwise non-functional parts. So neuroplasticity, so if you can think of the brain as a network of roads connecting one part of the brain to the next, what's happening when we're learning and then we're creating a habit by repetition of the new thing that we've learned is we're basically creating this superhighway of neuronal connections. So let's say, for example, you begin a practice of gratitude and you practice this every single day, maybe even multiple times per day. What's happening is new synapses are forming. So the neurons are firing and connecting. They're firing and wiring together and connecting to create a neuronal path. Every time that you repeat this practice of gratitude, more neurons fire in this pathway, this connection for gratitude, and it becomes easier and easier and easier because you now have this superhighway connection in your brain for accessing gratitude. So this is a really powerful way to overcome limiting beliefs, is just simply focusing on gratitude. Conversely, if you stop thinking habitually about a certain thing, then those neurons will become weaker and weaker and weaker, and eventually that connection will break apart. So for example, negative thought patterns could be something that you could rewire in your brain to not experience anymore. So here's a little video that shows what it looks like within the brain. And so you can see here, let me just pause, see here how some of these connections are stronger, right? So some are displayed as brighter, right? So this is a Johns Hopkins University simulation of what the brain looks like, what the neuronal pathways look like. So some of these are brighter, some of them are not as strong. So the things that we repeat over and over again are going to become stronger. You can see even here many more connections, right, with the neurons here. So this is just a simulation of what the neuronal pathways look like in the brain. It's like this network of connections, right? And we strengthen that network by repeating the same thing again and again and again. So this is how our this is how our subconscious programs were formed, by repetition over and over and over again. And so now we're learning to form new connections and break the old connections that no longer serve us. So here's the research behind neuroplasticity. So neural pathways form with focused attention and repetition. Well, that's what we're doing in meditation. Meditation is simply focus. It's simply concentration. And so when we focus our attention and we repeatedly do that again and again and again, we are building these neural pathways for focusing our attention. Focusing our attention on what? In this case, focusing it on presence, right? Because it's the memories of the past and the anxiety of the future that create all of the suffering and all of the tension in our bodies. And those thought patterns are habitual, right? We are habituated to think in the past and think in the future. So now, by bringing our focused attention into presence, we're creating neuronal pathways for staying in presence. Another study here shows that meditation improves connectivity between the amygdala, which is in charge of the emotions. That's the functional part of the brain that controls the emotions. The structural part of the brain that controls emotions, and the prefrontal cortex, which is our rational thinking part of our brain. That is, in fact, the last part of the brain to fully develop in humans. And so sometimes that connection between the emotions and rational thought can be very severed, because when we go into our emotional brain, we often lose capacity for logical thought. So this study proves that meditation actually helps us to connect with the rational part of our brain, even when emotions are really strong. So here's another study. Visualization activates mirror neurons, creating brain patterns similar to physical practice. So this is kind of like what Olympic athletes do, where they visualize their event before they go for it. And the parts of the brain that would fire as if they were actually doing the event or the sport are firing even through visualization. So this is a really powerful tool that we'll talk more about in later videos. So here with the brainwave states, so here we have the brainwave state. So this is from my Yoga Nidra presentation. I've taken these really useful graphics from Joe Dispenza's Rewired program. So here we have the different brainwave states and how fast they are. So here we have the slowest brainwave state, which is delta. That's your deep sleep unconscious state, followed by theta, alpha, beta, and then gamma is the fastest brainwave state. So let's go through and take a look at this. So what is high beta? So high beta is a very fast brainwave state operating at a high frequency. This is the state of overwhelm, of stress, when the mind is so busy that it's really hard to focus on one thing. Low beta is our conscious, concentrative state, where we can be attentive and alert. Here we're capable of logical thinking, accomplishing tasks, and socializing. So the difference in high beta versus low beta, as I'm sure anyone who's experienced a state of overwhelm, is there's a lot of brain fog. So it's very hard to focus and make connections when you're in high beta as opposed to low beta. Alpha is an even slower brain state, and this is a really special place because it's the area between the waking conscious mind, which is the beta, and the sleeping subconscious mind, which is the theta, which is what we are trying to access here. So alpha is this really special window between waking and sleep, where we can start to learn to be conscious in otherwise unconscious states. So alpha is, we experience alpha every night when we're falling asleep and every morning when we're waking up, sort of that in-between place. And then here is theta. This is the place where the reprogramming of the subconscious mind comes in. This is where we may have visions, right? This is the dream state. The inner and the outer world are one. So when we're in the dream state, it seems that the outer world is not separate from the inner world, right? So the dreams that we experience, the visuals that we have seem to be the reality. It says here, this occurs when we're daydreaming or drifting off to sleep. In this state, we're more relaxed and the thinking moves more freely, boosting creativity and intuition. So the reason I say that alpha is the really special brain state is because if we can start to be aware in the alpha state, so where otherwise the mind might be going off into sleep, off into unconscious thought, if we can start to learn to be aware and be conscious when the body is relaxed, when the mind is relaxed, but we're still awake and aware in the alpha state, then it becomes easier to do this in the theta state as well as the delta, which is the deep sleep, or the otherwise unconscious, dreamless sleep state, which yogis have shown it is possible to be conscious even in this deep sleep, unconscious state. But the progression every time when we fall asleep or when we come into a meditative state is like this. So we start from possibly high beta or beta, and then we access alpha, then theta, then delta. And so if we can start to pay attention to the way the brain waves start to slow down as we're transitioning into meditative states, as we're transitioning into the sleep state, then we can let this analytical mind relax. And then that's how we access the subconscious mind. So it says here that the theta brainwaves are the optimal state for accessing and reprogramming the subconscious beliefs. Again, in order to get there, we have to notice when we are in, even if we can notice when we're in high beta versus low beta is a really good sort of first step. High beta, that stress, that overwhelm feels like brain fog, feels like the logical mind can't quite focus on one task in particular. It's like when so many thoughts are inundating the mind that it's hard to pick one to really focus on and be efficient at accomplishing anything, right? Versus low beta, when that there might be active thinking, but you're able to sort of discriminate and distinguish between the thought that you want to hold in the mind versus all the extra noise. So it says studies on hypnosis show enhanced suggestibility in the theta state, improving habits and phobia reduction. So this, again, accessing this sweet spot, we do through meditation, we do through relaxation, and we're going to talk more about it as we continue going through these videos. So what's the connection with yoga? So dharana is the state of concentration. In yogic philosophy, dharana is concentration with effort. So this effort that we're placing on concentrating on a certain object. Let's say that object is the flame of a candle, right? So when the mind goes over here and is distracted by this, we bring it back to the flame of the candle. The mind goes over here, we bring it back. Every time we're bringing the mind back, we're creating neuronal pathways for presence, for concentration, for focus on one thing. And by doing that over and over and over and over again, those neuronal pathways get stronger and thicker, and it becomes easier and easier. So it's just like with any new thing that you learn. Let's say it's, riding a bike. The first time you ride a bike, it's very difficult. You fall off very quickly. But then you get back on, you ride a little further, you get back on, you ride a little further, you get back on. And the more you repeat this, again, you're building this pattern, this habit in your brain, this map in your brain of, I know how to ride a bike. So even if you don't ride a bike for a really long time, you've already created that habit and you know how to do it. You can get back on and do it as if you never stopped, right? So Um, so that's how we build those neuronal pathways, and it's through the practice of dharana. So in yogic philosophy, dharana, concentration, leads to dhyana, which is true meditation. And this is that uninterrupted flow where you're not distracted and going away and then coming back again, but fully focused on that one thing, on presence. So the next yoga connection here, japa. So this is mantra repetition. So again, this repetition of the same thing rewires the subconscious mind. And again, we'll dive deeper into how to practice this repetition and what qualities it takes to really actually access and reprogram the subconscious mind. Yoga Nidra is a really powerful tool as well that is designed specifically to access first the alpha state, then the theta, and then the delta state. So Yoga Nidra has a systematic approach to getting into the alpha state, so getting into the subconscious mind, penetrating the subconscious and the unconscious with conscious awareness. So mind and body goes to sleep, consciousness stays awake. That's what happens every night when we go to sleep. The larger consciousness is staying awake, even though the mind and the body are going to sleep. Okay, so that's a little bit about what the science says about reprogramming the subconscious mind. Now, in the last video, I gave you the homework assignment to do 5 minutes of meditation every single day. And I gave you the assignment to identify a limiting belief that you're ready to shift. And so now this assignment for this video is to continue with your daily 5 minutes of meditation. And additionally, start thinking about how to create new pathways through repetition. So you're going to identify your goal. That's that one limiting belief that you're ready to shift, and shift it into by creating a positive affirmation statement. So that limiting belief could be, for example, I'm not good enough. How do you shift that into a positive affirmation that you truly believe? Well, we talked a little bit about how you identify yourself. Do you identify yourself, as yogic philosophy says, as pure awareness, as the Atman? Well, if that's what you believe consciously, then you can shift to say, I am whole. I am complete. I have everything I need. All the answers are inside of me, right? So this is how you could shift from I am not good enough to a positive affirmation. I am whole. I am complete. I have everything I need. If you're not sure about how to shift your limiting belief, just put a comment below and I'll make some suggestions on how you can shift these limiting beliefs into a positive affirmation. Okay, in the next video, we're going to look at the power of auto-suggestion and how emotions really help us to get into the space of reprogramming the mind and shifting those belief patterns. So commit to your daily practice of meditation, identify the one limiting belief you're ready to shift, and shift it into a positive affirmation statement. And I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave any comments with questions or suggestions that you'd like me to add into this series. Thank you for listening.